It's a really nice day, so decided to go for a walk in the park, and everything's starting to bud. There are even some flowers. So spring is here. So I have to keep that in mind to remember to get outside when I can. And I'm on day 2 of ketogenic, even though I've been doing it for a few more days than that. Yesterday was the first day that I was really able to stay in my targets of fat and protein and carbs. And I'm doing good so far today too. And I weighed myself today and I'm 117, which is down 2 pounds from 119. So that is a bit of evidence that this might help for some fat loss. Not saying I'm fat, I'm not fat, but it's good to cleanse and get rid of some of the old fat every now and then, because I'm not going to stick to this ketogenic thing forever. Maybe a month, maybe up until my next crisis, maybe only a couple more days, I don't know. And that looks so magical. And it feels kind of like insight is coming back a bit. I wasn't sure if it would, being on 50 milligrams of quetiapine a day, but I'm starting to write down some insights. So that could be a sign of dopamine getting higher. And I emailed Peter Smith to do another consultation with him to talk about his suicide remedy program, or anti-suicide, it should be, really. Remedies to help when this switch happens in my brain that makes me feel like I want to harm myself or end my life. And the last time it happened, it just felt like I was ending my life in my brain, but I was just laying there and I was fully aware of that. But it was just agonizing. And then I had to go back on meds, and it was such a long, hard journey. So I'm going to be planned better and prepared better this time. And I also asked him in the email, since my cycle of 8.5 months is very predictable, if I could start tapering off the antidepressant stuff that sort of pushes me towards mania a month before the crisis, and maybe if that lowers the dopamine, because in the past I haven't been on these remedies and it just seems to naturally get higher and higher, and then gets to a point where it can't handle it anymore and then dies away in the crisis. So I'm wondering if, since I'm naturally going to be higher and higher in dopamine, I can stop taking the things that help to create dopamine and almost put a lid on it even more so. Maybe doing that will prevent a crisis. I don't know, but I'm still planning for the crisis to happen at 8.5 months. And then asking him about some of the doses of a few of the remedies like inositol and uridine. Because I got some uridine, but only enough for like 2 days. I pretty much have to eat the whole bottle. So I'm going to consult with him on a bunch of different stuff, hopefully in the next week or so. And then once I know what to order, I'll order all my supplements, wait for a good coupon on VitaCost. I looked, and some of the things are cheaper on nootropicsdepot.com. Like the uridine, I could have got a lot more powder for $16.99. Would have been with shipping too, but I would have got pretty much double for the same price, because the whole bottle of uridine that I got is 15 grams, and I could have got 30 grams for the same price. So that's okay. It's a learning experience. And so I'm working on that. And I kind of mapped some of them out in mind maps on an app called Simple Mind. Also mapping out what to do on a daily basis, which seems silly, but it's sort of, if it's nice outside, get outside. If it's raining, do inside stuff. So I saw it was nice outside, so here I am outside. If it was raining, I might be inside making a song. I kind of want to try to compose a nice song to go with the video footage I put together from California. And I'm just learning and doing a lot of different stuff. Practicing being in the present moment again. I feel like when I'm not in the present moment, I'm more focused on the little things that I need to buy and get. But when I'm present, I'm enjoying the now. It smells kind of skunky in here, and oh, you can't really see on this, but there's a ton of skunk cabbage down there. All that yellow right in the middle. So yeah, I'm going to try and slow down mania with supplements, even though I don't feel manic, but starting to write insights down is a sign that my brain is starting to go into that state, that hyper-perceptive, sensitive, insightful state, which eventually implodes upon itself. And something I wrote down from the solar revolution, and I want to watch it again and take some notes on it, because there's this one part where it really describes the whole process of brain growth in a really cool way, when it comes to the energetics as well as the physical changes in the brain cells. But I wrote down something that they said in the movie, which was that tranquilizers allow only the strongest stimuli to reach our conscious perception. And I'm on tranquilizers right now. I'm on quetiapine. So what that says to me and means to me is that by taking the tranquilizers, the strongest stimuli, which is consensus reality, only that gets through, and not this other stuff that I can become sensitive to. And that could be a good thing to a certain extent, but it'd be lovely to live in a way or a space or a place that was congruent with sensitivity and being really perceptive. Wow, that is a lot of skunk cabbage, look. I think the antipsychotics block the sensitivity to the oneness of everything and help one to perceive based on the illusion of separateness again, which is a lot more comfortable and way less vulnerable. And one thing I wrote down was something about this 8.5 month cycle that I seem to be experiencing. And what I'm wondering about it is, since 8.5 months is the time to birth a human being, a new human being, through a pregnant mother, I wonder if I'm caught in this birthing cycle of trying to birth a new human being within myself. Like it starts from zero after the crisis and then builds up and tries to birth this new human being, but it's not possible. Conditions are not right, or I've done something wrong, or I'm not doing the right thing, or whatever. And then it just sort of dies. And then the cycle happens again, trying to birth this new human being. But also, each new human being that's born is a new earth. So 8.5 months is the time it takes to birth a whole new earth, a whole new universe, a whole new cosmos. So I think this cosmic cycle is happening within me without giving birth or being in a womb, but in a way this earth is a womb for birthing a new human being. And I don't know if it takes 8.5 months, but it seems that after 8.5 months it starts again. So this whole 8.5 thing is also happening in my mind or in my being or something, and I really don't know if that's true. And it took me 8.5 months to get to some safety, some sense of safety after I had something happen that made me feel unsafe. So it's like after that 8.5 months, I go back to feeling unsafe. I really don't know what it's all about, but I'm making guesses here and not wanting to go back to the old stuff I said, though, that's for sure. So what if I don't build up those visions? And I wrote down, prepare for a crisis, just enjoy, work, be simple, be outside in nature and play. So not worrying about the visions, I think, could be important. Being outside in nature and playing. I'm feeling like it's less important to have a vision, sort of pattern to live up to, and more important to have vision or be able to see in the moment, and dropping having a vision and a pattern, because the pattern could possibly blind to the actuality of things not even being close to that, and then living in ideas as opposed to meeting the moment as it is. I say this now, but I'll probably screw it up. And something that seems pertinent is this one consciousness thing. There's no I, there's no me, there's no ego, there's no self. I'd like to say that's how I experience things, but I really don't know. And that's part of when I go into that visionary state, I go further into no selfhood, but I'm in a situation that requires a self to affirm how others around me experience me and life. So I think it's really important to get out of that. The light of the water is reflecting off the bottom of the branches. Can't really see that good in video, but it looks pretty magical. No big deal, you say, right? I have a lot to talk about, and I don't really want to go back to edit, so we'll see how this goes if I don't screw it up. And yesterday, I threw the whole ketogenic thing out the window. And it's partly because of my living situation. I don't have my own kitchen, even though I have all my own kitchen stuff in boxes. So I can't be organized with all my glass containers and having everything and having space to lay everything out and see things visually and what I'm doing. And I have to go upstairs to use the kitchen, and my dishes, some of them are down here, and my food, some is down, some is up, and I'm going back and forth and back and forth. And yesterday I didn't have a ripe avocado, and I was just like, this is nuts. I can't do this. I can't be in conflict with my surroundings. So then I ate a couple Laura bars and some dates and lots of sugary stuff. Plus the other thing was I was really, really tired, and I think it's partly because I did the high intensity interval training on my elliptical, and I don't know if I'm cut out for that. I think it really wipes me out. I could just be making excuses here, but I decided I'm gonna go with the flow when it comes to food. When I have my own space and I'm settled, maybe I'll do some kind of thing like that. I used to be really good at sticking with things like dietary changes when I had my own space, and that was my main thing I was doing, was taking care of myself, but I don't really have that, so I think I'm gonna go with like more packaged stuff and just things I don't even have to do dishes, because it's so complicated and confusing to do right now for me. So yeah, scrap that. And then I felt terrible last night, and I almost started watching Amazon Prime, but instead I watched some interesting things on YouTube. And also, I felt so terrible, and this morning I felt kind of blah. Went for Easter lunch with family and stuff, and I was feeling like, oh, I just can't live here and stuff. And then I came back home, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I didn't feel great or anything. And boom, I got into this crazy flow state by going through my email, because that was something on my to-do list. But I just realized, okay, I need to go through my email, because when I was in California, I wasn't really paying attention. Though I do remember there were things that I needed to tend to in my email, and I thought, well, I'll do them when I get back. So I went through my email to the best that I could. There's still tons of backup and stuff, but I went through the last while, and it put me in this flow, and I got like really organized, and I was listening to music. And I think part of the flow trigger was I had my sad light on, my Verilux sad light, not my blue light, because that would have been too intense, but I had that going. I was listening to my music with headphones, and I just had my whole iTunes playlist of however many songs on random, and was just really flowing with that. And I got really organized, and I was getting things organized on paper on my desk, and then my brain twin called me, and usually he texts and say, hey, when do you want to talk? But he just called, and we talked for like an hour and a half, and we came up with this cool process that we're going to try. He's a little bit in a funk, so I'm going to send him like inspirational stuff, and maybe he'll comment on it and organize it, and we might turn it into a blog of some kind, and we'll see what happens. I feel pretty inspired by it. It's like he needs a bit of like help and coaching to get out of this funk, and I'm not really one to give suggestions or say do this or that or try this or have you tried that or do you want to try this. I'm more about listening. And so we sort of decided, okay, I'm going to send you some stuff to check out, and maybe you like it, maybe you don't, whatever. So we'll see how that process goes. And we talked about a lot more than that, but it's interesting how I'm like totally high right now after feeling like crap yesterday evening. And I thought, well, I'm not a rapid cycler. I'm more of a steady, like once I'm going on the upswing, then I'm more on the upswing. My eye looks really off center right now. It's like I'm looking at it and it's looking way over. So I don't know if that's part of it, but whatever. It's okay if my eye looks off center. My whole face is kind of warped anyway. But yeah, this morning I took a tyrosine as well as a D-L-phenylalanine, which is similar to the effect of tyrosine, because I was feeling like crap. Plus I didn't take skullcap, and I took 2 bacopa, and I didn't take holy basil or hawthorn, which are more like downers, and I only took 2 taurine instead of 3. So I was thinking, well, I'm doing this thing with the vitamins where I'm supposed to be navigating my ups and downs, not taking the same thing every single day. So I put that into play today, and it did kick in the afternoon. Plus with the music and the light, that probably helped too. So that was cool. And, you know, I don't need a ketogenic diet to get into that state. I need more of a flow diet right now. Go with flow, eat what's there, minimize dishes and thinking about preparing and stuff because of my living situation. And so yeah, I'm in total flow, really high. I don't know if I will pay for it tomorrow and feel kind of down, like I sort of burnt out all this dopamine. I'm not sure if I should be scaling it back, though I do take quite a few things that lower it at night, plus I sleep in total darkness, so I do have those as backup. Plus I wrote out my crisis steps. I made this chart of what to do to tone down mania, what to do in a crisis, and if I feel suicidal. So I have this sheet. I also have the steps summarized on my wall. So I'm really trying to get it in my head about what I need to do. And so the thing I was thinking of, since I have total darkness set up, since I have all these supplements, can I push it a little bit more? Can I push myself into flow more because I have these ways to bring myself down? And so I'm wondering about that, and I didn't really purposely try to put myself in a really high state today. It just kind of happened. And when I was in that high state, that's when my brain twin called me. So yeah, I changed my blood donation appointment because I signed up for a family constellation workshop. When I was in California, someone told me to try it, so I thought to look it up because I do have some energy with some of my family members that, since I'm around them a lot more lately, I'd like to be able to resolve it. I don't want to feel this stuff. I don't want to feel annoyed and like I'm not able to flow or whatever, and that's more awful stuff that I was feeling a few months ago. So I want to be able to get through that. So it's only $25 for like a whole day. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about that. That's on Saturday. And yeah, also I'm going to go and buy a tennis racket and some cross trainer shoes so I can start to play tennis and do some outdoor things. You know, I whine about where I'm living, but there are fun things around here too. So I need to explore that, I think. And also, I think I talked about already that it's not about having a vision, but it's about being able to see. And then I remember one day before talking about the verb to peer, to be able to see deeply, to be able to see deeper and deeper. And that's what's needed. And being able to see this one consciousness, the fact that it's one consciousness, and maybe talking about that more. I don't want to repeat the old, like go into this whole analogy of peer and to peer and being a peer and blah blah blah. So that's that. And I watched the Solar Revolution, made some notes, and I think I already talked about this, how they said tranquilizers only allow the strongest stimuli to reach our conscious perception. And it would be nice if I could not take the tranquilizers and be so sensitive, and that be okay. Maybe one day. And obviously the insights and the energy is coming back, and maybe I can let it go for the next month, but perhaps I should start slowing it down on May 1st. Maybe even now, I don't know, we'll see. And I remember last night when I was falling asleep, this is the thing sometimes that happens when I run out of energy, is that I can remote view. Like I'm sleeping, but it feels like I'm have my face in the water. The sensation of being able to see a different world, like looking over here and looking over there, like looking into this totally different world and seeing different scenes, like people eating or someone's face. Just such very clear, obvious things, and I'm like looking right at them, but I'm in bed with my eyes closed. It's like when my eyes are closed, these other eyes open and I could see other places. And I could see it when I woke up too. Maybe too, because I'm in the total darkness. I'm not sure, but it didn't do anything freaky last night. It just sort of looked around, which was cool. And so yeah, being able to speed up or slow down and playing with that a little more, since I do have that in place. And I don't even know if this stuff is speeding me up or slowing me down, because this is the time in my 8.5 month cycle of this up and down and then crisis thing, that this would be happening anyway. So I don't think it's causing it. I think it's correlated with it. I do healthier things when I'm in that state and stuff like that. And I do want to share something that they did say in the Solar Revolution movie around the way they describe brain growth. So I'll share that in the next video. And yeah, I'm reached out to Peter Smith. Hopefully he gets back to me, and I have an appointment with him soon to ask him about, should I do this whole slowing mania thing down in the beginning of May, and see if that sort of prevents hitting a wall of crisis because I've let it accumulate and accumulate. So it seems like I have these like ups and downs, but it's on a generally moving upward trend. And that's the other thing that happened today, was somebody that I know says that I look taller. And this person, like many times when I get into higher states, they start saying I look taller, and they've done that many times. So it's sort of like, oh, yeah, I am getting lighter, which if I'm getting lighter, my spine expands and I get a little bit taller for sure. And at some point, I'll share more of that astrology stuff. It's kind of less interesting to me after today because it was such a creative, collaborative day. And I am going to start doing the relaxation audio when I get the Spire, which is that breathing device, and going with that. And I wrote down something about dark matter because I was watching that Solar Revolution movie, but the thing that I want to say about it has nothing to do with what they said in the movie. Dark matter, they say it's like 96% of everything, and the matter we see is only 4%. The dark matter is so things can rearrange, so we keep on living in our own reality. Like, the dark matter to me is proof that there's many other realities happening, and we sort of collapse into each reality like puzzle pieces. Like, someone might die in one reality but keep on going in the dark matter that others in the visible matter of those people's lives can't see, but they go on in the dark matter with other aspects of some of the same beings or not. I don't know. But I think dark matter has something to do with parallel and other dimensions. I want to point out that in this state, it seems that my face has changed slightly. I'm more strabismic than usual. So this could be a sign that I'm in an altered state, that my face is different, my eyes like going off to the side, like it's doing its own thing, like one side of the brain's doing one thing and the other's doing another. I have no idea. But in this video, I wanted to mention that I got an email from Dr. Mercola this morning, and he talked about how it's important to eat less than 67 grams of sugar per day to avoid depression. So I thought that was a good message. I'm not going to do the ketogenic thing anymore from what I described in the last video, but less than 67 grams of sugar a day could be good if I can do that. I was trying to do less than 25, so 67 is quite a bit more. And one thing I was thinking of though is that I could do fruitarian. I'm not holding myself to it, but at some point it's really easy to do fruit because you don't really need to prepare it, you just eat it. And that's what I need right now, is stuff that you just eat and you don't have to prepare. So I'm quite happy with my Laura bars. I'll make smoothies in the morning. I have some pecans, I have olives, I have a lot of stuff that I'm going to eat anyway. But yeah. And then I also wanted to remind myself that this was the time of year that I struggled 2 years ago in 2016. It was around this time that I was starting to really, really struggle, and then I ended up hospitalized. I think it was on April 5th or 4th or something. So just a cycle to keep in mind. And then something else that was interesting was I was looking up the geostorms, and I found that in 2011, on April 11th, I think, there was a class 1 G1 geostorm or something. And apparently I looked it up, and there's a lot of those, like 1,000 every 11 years. So they happen a lot. But for some reason, when I looked it up, all I could find was posts about this movie called Geostorm. But in the midst of all those posts, on the very first page was about this geostorm, I think April 11th, 2011, and I was looking up 2011 on purpose because that's when I first went into these crazy altered states. And April 11th, 2011, I was in a crazy manic state that didn't end until like probably after April 18th sometime. And so yeah, it was interesting. And I'll put the little clip of the article at the end of this, so I don't have to go back and edit it, but I'll mention it again at the end if I remember. And interestingly enough, when I brushed my teeth this morning, there was nothing on my tongue, so maybe the ketogenic thing was doing good. It was like I didn't have any of that tongue guck. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Stay posted for an update on my tongue. And this was a special message that I got from someone's sock. And also, what was the other thing? Some other time I'll talk about that astrology stuff, but it's seeming less interesting now that I'm kind of onto something else. And can't forget about the geostorm thing. And something I just wrote down was an idea about ideas. It's about, I wonder if part of the trouble with this energetic consciousness, this higher state, is that the idea to output ratio is kind of messed up. Or I would say the intuition to fruition ratio. So like if we have all these intuitions and we can't bring any of them to fruition, it eventually self-destructs, because otherwise, I'm just making this up now, we sort of can get lost in a state of just being in love with our ideas forever, or getting really stimulated by ideas, which is generally how we live. We live in ideas and ideals and all of that. And these are like higher ideals, but then we could just sit around thinking, well, these higher ideals feel good, so I'll just sit around thinking about higher ideals and not creating them. So at some point, it becomes too much. And I was thinking about this too, or it came to mind because I've written a lot down, like ideas and plans and things for lifestyle design, scaffolding, and blah, blah, blah. But how much of it will I create, or can I create? I'm not sure. And also, I created a mind map of all of this stuff. I'll share that later. I'll write that down to share later. So I feel like I got pretty organized today, and I do like this whole intuition to fruition ratio, because if some of them start coming to fruition, then it's easier to know what ideas to do next. Whereas if it's idea and create the whole plan, but then once you start creating this bit, all the rest of the ideas fall away. Well, that was a waste of energy to do all that planning. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And I want to read a couple things, and I know reading is kind of boring, but I wanted to read this bit that I wrote, and I think I said I was going to read it before, when I was going to create a forum with my brain twin, but we're going to do something else. But I wrote, forum devoted to harvesting, harnessing, and grounding the human potential that comes out of extreme states of consciousness that are currently labeled as mental illnesses, to provide a platform and scaffolding to empower change and create the conversation that happens between peers regarding these experiences, in hopes that this dialogue will ripple outward to affect the way we are approached, received, and treated upon falling out of the high states of non-self that gifted us access to this energy and information, in hopes that they will assist us to recollect the necessary parts of the functioning ego in order to bring back the insights and visions we collected to manifest our individual and collective dreams and the creations in actuality for the betterment of humanity and Gaia, which are two sides of the same essence. Perhaps the dialogue will change the field such that we are swarm sufficient in creating this capacitance with this neighborhood of people to address extreme self-care and wellness particular to this tribe/swarm of beings, creativity and non-rigid spirituality, and finding creating meaning through dialogue and wondering, also inviting our neighborhoods, people who get it without having a label, to join in humbly. When I was in California, I met this man who was a writer, and he said, there are 3 best times to write. When you wake up, after you take a shit, and after walking or while walking or something like that. So, after waking, after walking, and after shitting. Or maybe while you're shitting if you're there for a while. He didn't say that part, I added that in. But this relates to something that I read when I was going through my emails, and it was sent by Stephen Kotler of the Flow Genome Project. And one of his emails had a blurb about the art of the impossible. So this is Stephen Kotler speaking. Cognitive load. If you want to do the impossible, you need hyper-focus. I like to think of focus as a kind of meta-flow trigger, hence the Flow Genome Project adage, focus drives flow. I don't know if I agree with that personally. Minimizing cognitive load is key to unlocking this kind of flow, driving focus. Now I'm adding this in, I don't know if I agree with that completely, because you need eureka. You need that connection between unrelated things. And if you have so much focus and you only have the right things around, then you can't have this eureka moment. And there's other words for it, serendipity, things like that. So you need serendipity, and that's a good word. And then he goes on to talk about cognitive load theory developed by John Sweller in the 1980s, and there's a paper on it. It's basically the total amount of mental effort being used in working memory. And I don't know that much about that, but so he talks about how to reduce cognitive load. The golden rule: cut anything that's going to cause you to think about anything but the work in front of you. Add anything that is going to help you not think about anything but the work in front of you. So I don't know if I agree with that fully, but he does say cut phone checking, environmental distractions, outfit selection, breakfast decisions, morning news, email reading, even music can be a no-no, as it can arouse nostalgia, which continues to capture your attention even after listening. So I don't know about some of those, but I think we need to find our own positive triggers. Because I've taken WRAP, which is Wellness Recovery Action Plan, and they talk about negative triggers, but they don't really talk about positive triggers, and that's something that I would add in. So that was a bit by Stephen Kotler, and I also got a bit by his friend Jamie Wheel of the Flow Genome Project regarding flow hacking. And it was an interesting email because Jamie was talking about how they did this vital respiration workshop, and they were doing this to create or recreate some of the claims they were making about the physiology they were discussing. And they did this whole workshop, and what he was saying in the email was something profound. He was saying none of it worked. So they had all these apparatus and things to do all this stuff to physiology, and none of it worked. And he said some of it worked backwards. So they had an exercise, nasal breathing to boost nitric oxide. Couldn't get a measurement on a saliva test to validate it. Sports oxygen to hypersaturate the bloodstream. The pulse oximeter readings didn't budge. Cold mask to trigger mammalian dive reflex and drop heart rate. Nope. Vagal nerve relaxation breathing to lower heart rate. Didn't work. So it was interesting because he said nothing they did worked. And I found that interesting because I've been sort of loosely following the Flow Genome Project, because they have this Flow Dojo where they have all this crazy apparatus to do stuff to the physiology to get us into flow. And why I find it interesting is people like me, people labeled bipolar, go into overflow without doing anything and without asking for it at all. And then there's these people out there trying to get into that state. So I just think if there was more dialogue between people who go into that state naturally and the people who don't, then we might sort of figure out some truths that would allow us all to be in more of a flowy state. And I could go on and on about all those truths forever if I was asked. But they're doing with all this crazy apparatus. So it was interesting to get this email saying they did a certain workshop, this specific workshop, and nothing worked. And they did it with people coming to do this. So he said in his email, which brings us to a recurring theme around us, which is do the obvious in personal growth, quantified self, biohacking spaces. It's incredibly easy to miss forests for trees, get obsessed with the newest keto, paleo, gluten, lecithin free diet, stocking the perfect mushroom supplements, blah blah, state chasing, bliss junkying the way through life instead of doing it like Socrates suggested and know what we don't know. And he says something like, there's nothing really new under the sun, and living an exceptional life requires nothing more or nothing less than it always has. Be good humans, get outside, breathe, eat real food, make love and music, be kind to others, stay awake, build stuff. And then he says, check out these articles. So I'm not sharing this to try to copy anyone's stuff. I'm just saying it's interesting. They have all this money and research and momentum behind what they're building, all these apparatuses and workshops, and they're doing all this stuff, and they did certain ones and didn't do anything. And the thing is, it's all within us. We don't have to create any kind of weird apparatus to get us into these types of states. So anyway, I won't go into that, but it was cool to receive an email from them saying all of our crazy expensive stuff didn't work. And people who go into these states overflow extreme states of consciousness and become ungrounded and need help navigating their way back to functioning. It costs so much money to get people back to functioning, and there's people out there trying to get into flow, and it's just all weird. So I don't want to go on and on about that, but I just wanted to give an example of the people doing the flow research saying, hey, life's pretty simple. We don't need all this stuff to get into flow. I did a few things today to get into flow, and maybe it would have happened anyway. It can happen pretty easily for me in certain spaces of time and certain space. So I wanted to share that quickly. And then the other thing I wanted to share was a while ago I listened to a 5 Quantum Powers audio clip by Jean Houston, and it was really inspirational actually. I was in a terrible state of mind, but I found it really, really inspirational. So it's interesting because the 5 quantum powers that she explores, and I just want to summarize these points to show anyone if they recognize them from their altered states of consciousness that are later labeled as mental illness. The power to expand time so you can do more in less time. The power to experience sustained fire to keep you operating at your highest energy level throughout even the longest, most challenging days. The power to partner with the energy of the universe to more easily accomplish your goals and fulfill your dreams. The power to expand and express your creativity without sacrificing your daily responsibilities. The power to attract money, people, and resources you need to move your project forward and achieve the level of success you're striving for. So we're able to do those things that the second part of the statement maybe we're not able to do, because it's like saying before, without adding stress to your life. Well, usually the state does add stress at some point. Experience sustained fire. Well, the fire eventually burns out and crashes and burns. And then partnering with the energy of the universe, yeah, that happens. But we don't usually accomplish our goals and fulfill our dreams because it crashes and burns. And expressing your creativity, well, we get a lot of it, but it does lead to sacrificing our daily responsibilities. And we do at some point attract money, or spend it at least, people and resources to move projects forward, but it doesn't really go anywhere because again it crashes and burns. But I just thought it was interesting that these are the points, these are these quantum powers, and we are able to step into this quantum state of consciousness and access these quantum powers, but we don't know how to be grounded with them. So I think that's an important point to keep in mind, that maybe we can learn how to ground these. And I would love it if this time around I could learn that. I don't know. I think my intuition to fruition ratio is still going to be messed up. And that's the thing too. It's important to be able to not sacrifice daily responsibilities, but if one is too far into intuition and not as much into fruition, even in terms of doing daily responsibilities, well, then it's going to crash and burn, because it's got to be grounded in daily life. So the last thing I want to talk about today, and again, no copyright infringement intended, wanting to spark interest in this movie, The Solar Revolution. At about the 10 or 11 minute mark, this guy comes on and says the following: the interesting thing, and we've known it for years, and yet somehow it eluded us, is that for about 20 minutes during the acquisition of new information, it's 2 stages. It's electrical, electromagnetic, and it's physical, chemical. It's energy and matter. And during that 15 to 20 minutes, that pattern we call experience is transformed into connections of dendrites, spines that connect. And in a lifetime with all the energy associated with your thinking, that's just a few joules of energy. That's the thinking. And the Earth's magnetic field has the capacity to store 10 to the 18th joules, which means the thought of every person who ever lived could be there represented. So all this ideas is saying is that information, not you, not your sense of self, that's a brain phenomenon, but the information is stored extracerebrally. And then another thing they said, which kind of boggled my mind, was the number of possible connections in the brain is greater than the number of atoms in the entire universe. And I kind of wondered how this is possible, because even just one brain connection requires a lot of atoms, more atoms than a single brain connection. So then, like, how can there be more connections than atoms if the connections themselves require atoms? I don't know if that makes any sense, but the other part, the part before, was interesting because it's talking about this whole electrical process also creating the physical, the chemical, the brain cells. It's energy and matter, and I've talked a lot about that before, how that works, and the pruning process. And I think too, like, these higher states of energy start growing these brain cells, and when the energy lowers, those brain cells die off because it's required a certain amount of energy for those to grow, just like growing a kind of plant requires a certain amount of water and light for it to grow. If you take that water and light away, it's going to die, and it's going to die pretty quick. So it's the same with the brain. A certain amount of energy and light and movement grows it really quick, but it dies off really quick. And I think that's what happens in my brain. And the other thing too that it says is that all the thoughts of all the humans that ever lived, well, we all share the same thoughts. We're not individuals with that. It's a collective bundle, and we just sort of happen to have them channel through our brain based on how we're conditioned. But anyway, that's not important. I just wanted to share that whole thing that he's saying, that we know that there's this energy that is electrical, electromagnetic, and physical and chemical that changes and grows the brain. And they were talking about later in the movie about how if there's a solar flare or a geostorm, that can provide the energy that sort of changes the brain. And they talk about that a lot, in a lot more detail, and I'm not going to go into detail here. I would watch that movie. It's pretty crazy. And that geostorm in 2011 was definitely correlated, not necessarily caused, but correlated with my first super heightened energetic state. And I went with that energy, and I went into such a high energy, and then it crashed. And coming back from that, as the brain cells are dying back, feels like one is dying. Like, death is the brain cells sort of dying, and they can die during life. And that's what I think creates the fear and the terror of some of this so-called psychosis, is going into higher states, seeing a lot more, being able to see more, in the brain cells changing accordingly, and then coming back to the way we always see. And that goes with their statement they made about the tranquilizers, how it allows only the most dominant information to get through. So we take these tranquilizers, and our brain then has this chemical barrier that only allows the most dominant information to get through. And that other subtle energy that can be really powerful and change the brain sort of isn't allowed. And that's what I'm doing right now by taking 50 milligrams a day of quetiapine, and it doesn't seem to block this creative energy when it comes in. I guess that's part of this experiment of taking the 50 milligrams of quetiapine a day, is, will it block mania? Will it block this crisis? If it doesn't really do anything different than how I've had a few crises, well, on lithium and trazodone, and then needing to add in the quetiapine for a short term. Now I'm on quetiapine daily. If it doesn't do anything, it doesn't do anything. Maybe I just need to be off of it and only take it when necessary. I don't know, we'll see. All these experiments are up and coming. I'm walking in the park again because it's supposed to rain after today for about a week. So I've made a commitment to getting outside when it's most suitable. That's part of my WHAM plan, Wellness, Happiness, Activity Map. And the algorithm goes, well, one of the first questions is it sunny outside? If it's yes, that changes the activities that I'm going to pick from. I'm not going to sit inside on my computer when it's nice outside, living in the part of the world that I do, when it can go for long stretches where it's very rainy. And to go with my commitment to being outside and being more in my body, getting more exercise and doing more fun activities, I'm really not about the gym or activities that are really forceful, but things like rollerblading, tennis, walking, things that are fun. Some people find the gym fun, but I don't. I do lift a little bit of weights at home and bounce on my mini trampoline, and that's fun. So whatever's fun for each person, but I'd rather be outside walking than bouncing on my trampoline inside when it's nice out. But my trampoline can be taken outside. So when it's even nicer, I can take my trampoline somewhere nice and bounce on it. That would be fun. But what I was going to talk about is how yesterday I went to the mall, which I never do. But my intention was to get a tennis racket. And man, that was challenging. I finally got one. I finally picked one. And it was like a $230 racket on sale for $100. And I wanted to get a good piece of equipment because the thing is, when trying something, I've tried tennis before, but not for years. I don't want to be fighting against crappy equipment and thinking, well, I don't like this because I'm not very good, but really the instrument is not very good. So I'm not sure if it's the appropriate racket, but I got a good one. And I wanted to get other equipment too, but I kind of chickened out. I got a tennis racket. Oh, what a beautiful bird. I've never quite heard that before. And if I have, it's very new right now. Hello, beautiful birdie. I hear you. Birdie. See, it's listening to me. Tweet, 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 tweet. Anyway, I don't know. Oh yeah, the tennis racket. And then I got running shoes because I haven't bought running shoes in like 6 years. And mine have holes in them. And they were kind of expensive. But again, I picked one that was on sale. I got them for like $100 when they were $200 shoes. So sometimes it's nice to pay a little bit more for something that's really reduced in price that would cost extra if it wasn't on sale. So instead of getting an $80 pair on regular price, I got a $200 pair for $20 more, but it's a way higher quality shoe. And it's really colorful. I'll show them later. This is the pair of shoes I got. I basically just picked the most colorful ones. Yeah, can't get much more colorful than that. And that. And my colorful magical backpack. I'm starting to see a theme. Wandering around, being active and crazy, dressed in bright colors. And this is the racket I got. Oh yeah, so regular, that I paid $89 plus tax. So about $100. And this one has some crazy smart sensor ready thing. And it shows a phone. So I think this has some kind of smart technology in it that might say something about the swing or how hard you hit it or something. So that's kind of cool. I like technology sometimes. So, step one, tennis. And then I got a racket for a friend, so I'll have someone to play with. Well, it's their racket. I almost wanted to get a second one so I could have it on hand if someone wants to play with me who doesn't have a racket. Maybe I'll do that. So that was good, because I've talked to myself about how I spend too much on like vitamins and things to prevent crisis, and bipolar this and bipolar that. So it's good to be body this and body that. And then I was going to buy a jacket, but then somebody gave me a jacket that very day. And so yeah, here I am outside walking. That's good. I do have quite a bit of other stuff to do though, because this morning I spoke with Peter Smith of balancingbrainchemistry.co.uk, and I was talking with him about the strategies for the upcoming crisis. He talks about taking certain remedies, so knowing that I'm going to have a crisis, it's not like I don't know when it's going to happen. I want to know the timing of what to take when, what to take when I'm feeling suicidal, what to take on a daily basis, what to take only when I'm feeling suicidal or really depressed, what to stop taking right before the crisis, what to stop taking right after. And so he and I discussed, and I'm going to stop taking tyrosine and rhodiola, which both boost dopamine, a couple of weeks before the crisis will hit, the hitting the wall event, and then also start taking things that help to boost neuroplasticity, like magnolia bark, continuing the bacopa, taking skull cap, and then ones I can take when I'm feeling suicidally depressed after the crisis, like inositol and uridine. And then, yeah, stuff like that. I'm going to make a video for myself outlining the whole plan, like from start to finish, because that way I can refer to that video or audio instead of having to try to read through stuff, when sometimes that's really hard at that point. So I'll have it in writing, but I'll also have it on video and audio for myself to refer to during that time. So I'll go through all the details. But basically, with his help, I did figure out that I likely won't need the branched chain amino acids unless I feel totally super manic and high. But I won't take that once the crisis hits and I go into depression. So yeah, I will outline all those things for myself in a separate video. And then I also need, he said, to do the darkness therapy during that time. So if I do go to a sanctuary, I will need to block out the windows, unless I can find something that totally blocks the light out of the eyes. And maybe if I can't, maybe I can design something like that at some point. I was imagining something that goes over the head and you can breathe. Obviously you need to breathe, but it's totally dark and it's partly soundproof with like a speaker in there so you can listen to the sound you want, or have no sound and have the sound blocked out on the outside if it's noisy from city noise and things. And also to be able to sing and shout and kind of scream if one needs to too. So making it some kind of contraption that is portable, so then one doesn't have to go like taping up the windows everywhere, because I want to be able to move around and wander, and to have to tape windows up everywhere would be challenging. So I'm going to look into that, see if there's something I can even make that sort of totally glues over the eyes at night and keeps all the light out. I don't know if that's sufficient, but we'll see. And then what else is happening? I'm having more insights lately, but I'm able to keep them slightly under wraps, which is good. And also the sound in my brain is getting louder, that sort of Schumann resonance sound that I hear. And I'm wondering if my brain is hearing the sound of its own growth, or that sound is part of the vibration that provides the substrate and the energy and the nutrients for brain cells to grow. Because of that process I described that I heard about in the movie The Solar Revolution. There's these energies before the chemicals can cause the brain cells to grow. So I'm wondering about that. It is feeling a little bit grindy, which can be uncomfortable. But it's not too bad today. It's only at certain times. And I'm wondering if when I get that Spire breathing device, if it'll help me to correlate this grindy energy, noisier sound with what I'm doing or where I am. So the other night too, when I was feeling really energetic, I took some recordings of my brain with the Muse device and the Muse Monitor app. And since a friend of mine showed me that I could do screen recording on the iPhone, I recorded some screen clips as opposed to just taking screenshots. So I'll put those in here. And what I noticed is that all 4 points are very uniform, and they're in like the 800 and something millivolt range. When I've had distress before, the temporal lobe has been really uppity. And also I noticed that the 33 hertz band is a lot higher, and there's even some at like 34. It seemed like there was a broad range of more higher peaks of energy going on in some of the different screenshots. So I don't know what it all means, but I'm sort of keeping track now, or at least this one time. And I want to do it again when I'm feeling really energetic and creative, and maybe also save the raw data. Just doing these little experiments. It's hard to keep track of them all, but just keep going with experimentation, because I don't know what it all means, and maybe one day I can figure it out or not. I think the point is to experiment, not to really hold the results in mind and try to transpose them onto the future, but just seeing the correlations in moments as opposed to trying to make it into some causation, because I'm really seeing that there's not really causation, but in certain states, certain traits and behaviors manifest. And that goes along with the whole notion that there's no self, there's no me, but there are states, and those states produce certain behaviors and traits. So I think part of the fallacy of this whole mental illness and the current mental health paradigm is that there is no self to fix. Part of the problem is being like, I want it to be consistent. So I am having more of these subtle insights, and they're not too intense, but I do want to talk about some of them because they seem to make sense. They seem to be not telling me. It's in that state. There's access to these other bits of information that I can speak out loud to myself or other people one day, maybe, I don't know, but it's this whole oneness and non-separation and no division thing that's hard to navigate. And I don't think there's anything I can do to prevent the whole crisis and fall that's going to happen. It just seems to be what's happening. So when I'm in these other spaces, harvesting some of that too and talking to myself about it, because at some point I'll just be feeling sorry for myself and grumpy and shameful and blameful and guilty and hateful and angry. But right now there's none of that. And I was thinking of it too in terms of like a big weather pattern. Like there's this space of creativity where there's no self and there's no problems. And then at some point this big wave of thought storm comes in. This wave of the past, this wave of the self that sort of crushes all that creativity. But then it goes away. And I think that's part of what I want to talk about, is how to not be afraid of it, how to manage it and self-medicate it, as Peter Smith says, so then one can just sort of go on with life. And he was talking about how he had 6 cycles of mania and depression a year, so he had more opportunity to work at it. And since mine is such a long cycle, I don't have as many opportunities to sort of try to work at self-medicating with these supplements to see how they work. So for me, that's why it's even more important to really put a lot of thought and planning into this next one, because it only happens every 8.5 months, so it's my opportunity to see how well I can navigate it, and I won't have another chance for 8.5 months after that. So he was telling me it could take me a long time to figure this out. Other people who cycle more rapidly possibly could figure it out faster because they have more cycles to work with, and I thought that was a really interesting point. So the river is actually the star of the show, not all these words. And tonight I'm going to get organized with my crisis plan protocol and order a few supplements. I don't think I got the right turmeric. He said it's really important to get a high potency one so it gets into the brain. It's really hard to get that stuff into the brain, but it does help reduce the inflammation of the brain. And he said that I need to get on the relaxation audio. I know that. So I do really, if I'm serious here, I do really need to focus on certain aspects leading up to the crisis, which I haven't yet made time or made seriously important. So I'm not sure if that'll get in the way of getting a job. And I kind of want to go back to California in May. Thinking my car is going to die. I'm thinking I might try to get a new one. And when I was in California last year, I got to drive a Chevy Volt, and I'm thinking that would be a good one because there are incentives to get money back because it's partly electric, and here you can drive in the high occupancy vehicle lane if you have one, and I live kind of out from town, so if I was able to drive in the HOV lane, I wouldn't be as hesitant to go into town, so it would add to my possibilities of mobility. And it's partly electric, so that's in alignment with my values of wanting to be less harmful on the environment. Plus it goes like 700 kilometers a tank and a full charge of electricity, so that's pretty good. And I could technically drive to California on pretty cheap, and I don't like flying, so that way I would go and I would have a vehicle and it wouldn't be that expensive. So it's more expensive to buy, of course, but we'll see what happens. It came to mind today, and here I am talking about these sort of high possibilities, and I don't know what will unfold. But I do need to do the relaxation stuff, and yeah, lots on the go. Tomorrow I work. Yesterday I got 12,000 steps, which was great, walking around the mall, and I also went for a walk around a lake. And here I am in the park today, which is what I want to do. And yeah, today it popped in my head that maybe what I want to do after I get through this next crisis is help people to self-medicate. Like, am I passionate about this self-medication? Yeah, I am. I'm passionate about being empowered to take control of these crises on my own and not have to rely on the acute care system of mental health, like the psych ward. Yes, I see a psychiatrist right now, and I take a little bit of quetiapine, but I'm not really reliant on like, oh, if I don't see my psychiatrist, shit's gonna hit the fan, because I have a little bit of extra meds, so if I missed an appointment, it wouldn't be a big deal. Like, I kind of know what to do. So if I figure that out, it would be cool to help people figure that out, because part of the worst part of having a bipolar diagnosis is the experience of the acute care, the psych ward, and how people are treated there, or how I was treated there. It's not really a fun place. It can be not too bad sometimes, but it can also be completely horrific. And the last time I was there, it scared me to the point that I don't want to go back, which has given me the courage and energy to really explore these alternatives. So if I could help people lessen the thought storms to the point of being able to weather those storms on their own, you know, with a lot of different supports. But, you know, the thing that really got me was the post-hospitalization PTSD. I was totally traumatized, so I worked less. You know, I haven't been able to be as healthy and all that because I just haven't been working as much, because I'm afraid it just is more stressful. You know, excuses. I will get employment at some point, but maybe if I focus on this, I'll be able to help people after. But the thing that worries me about that is I'm always thinking I'm going to be able to help people at some point. And then time passes and I'm like, crap, I didn't make any money this year, and I have less money than I did, and blah, blah, blah. I should have made at least some money. So we'll see. You know, if something works out and I get a Chevy Volt, I'll probably want to go to California for May and then go into sanctuary for June crisis time. Learn how to do that. And if I can get through that okay, you know, it might show me the value of this sanctuary and peace and quiet when it's happening, and being able to create that somehow. Like, I know that's a pipe dream, but if I'm able to do it for myself and see the value, maybe I can show people how to create that for themselves without necessarily having to create a big facility or space for that. Because the thing is, then it's so bureaucratic, and so many policies and procedures and insurance and ethics and values and boundaries, and it's like such a shit show. When it's like, find a safe place, get some vitamins, get darkness therapy, go be quiet, get through the crisis. The trouble is, though, a lot of people go into it without warning. So we need to have all these plans. Maybe it'll do nothing. Maybe being alone by myself in sanctuary will be hell. Maybe I'll learn, okay, sanctuary is great, but you've got to have a lot of supportive, loving, caring, non-judgmental people around. I don't know. And I do have someone that I can call for help if I'm in that sanctuary space. So after my walk, I wanted to look up to see if there are any 100% light blocking sleep masks. And there's one called the Dream Sleeper, and there's one called the Sleep Master. And I got the Sleep Master. It was $5 cheaper, like $35. And it says it blocks out some sound too. So I'm going to try that out to see how it is. I ordered that. And I got something I ordered in the mail, which was a lighter plug from my old car, because it has 3 lighter ports, and now I can plug in this air filter thing that I have, and bladdy-daddy-do. And I ordered something else. Oh, I ordered a screen protector, a glass screen protector for my phone that only you can see when you're looking straight at it, because sometimes I like to edit my videos when I'm out in public, but it looks kind of weird to be looking at a video of myself in public. So I thought that would be cool, especially if I live in town more and take rapid transit, so I can be more active and rollerblade and hike and things, so I can do that kind of work on transit. I don't know if it's completely necessary, but it's kind of fun. So hopefully I can get the screen protector I have on my phone right now off. And so that sleep thing could be really cool if it works. And even if it doesn't work 100%, it's better than nothing. And I made myself some healthy dinner. I haven't done this in a while, the big pile of food, veggies, and of course I got my organic sriracha. This is going to be good. And I'm going to watch the last 15 minutes of Ron Unger's presentation called Psychosis as Attempted Solving. Let me try that again. Psychosis as Attempted Problem Solving. And it's on Adobe Connect, and I got a link to it by signing up for his email list. So I'm going to watch the last 15 minutes. It's a really, really good presentation. And I organized some of my vitamins that I need to order. I just asked Peter Smith a couple random questions that hopefully he'll answer so I can order those and get 12% off before 6 a.m. tomorrow through VitaCost. And I also click through Giving Assistance, so I get 4% cash back. And I need to order uridine from No Tropics Depot. And then I'll have my supplements, though I will probably need to make at least one more order before crisis time. And I might play tennis tonight, and I'm going to write a post updating my lithium orotate journey because it's been almost 3 months, and somebody asked me a question about that today. So those are the things I'm going to do. And what else? Yeah, research this whole Honda Civic versus Chevy Volt thing so I can make a good case for it in my mind, or not a good case if it's not the right thing to do. Alright, no copyright infringement intended, but look at this slide by Ron Unger in his video Psychosis as Attempted Problem Solving, which I got by signing up for his mailing list on recoveryfromschizophrenia.org towards a transformation-friendly mental health system. Protect a person from going through extreme states, protect the person going through extreme states, help them develop a dialogue with that which disturbs them. I've done a lot of dialogue. Train people prone to extreme states and how to negotiate these states successfully. That's what I want to do. And how to draw extreme states to support creative maladjustment in interaction with social groups. And the role in social transformation, our survival may depend on a better relationship with the visionary. That is just crazy genius. That sums it up right there. He says it so casually, though. I think that's how he can get away with it. He's not like, oh my God, our survival may depend on a better, oh my God. He's just like saying it just so matter-of-factly. This guy is just a genius. So today there are several developments. I got the Spire, and I haven't fully opened it up yet. Feels warm because that's where my warm plate was. And this is what it looks like. It's very nice packaging. The nice magnet. They went all out, and it really did have kind of mixed reviews on Amazon, so hopefully this thing is kind of cool. It says that it will tell you who, what, and where bug you, and I kind of want to know that. I really do. And it gives you feedback if you stop breathing or something. It buzzes or something. Oh, you can wear it on your bra. You can wear it on your waist or on your bra. So I'm going to set that up tonight for sure. And in 2 days, I'm going to start my relaxation brain training again. So it comes out and then it clips out of this little carrier like that. And comes with this. I don't know what this is. Perhaps it's a charger. Looks like it is. Looks like you just put it on here and it charges, I think. Because I don't see anywhere to plug anything into this to charge it. So look, it's my first contact charger. How exciting. And comes with this cord, of course. And I'm going to read about this and see how to set it up. And I'm going to set it up tonight. And then I will talk about it once I do that. The other thing is I got this silly little mic in the mail. I think I was a little bit crazy when I bought this, but it does have a cool echo effect, but it doesn't work with my sound card of my PC that I make music with. This isn't really adequate anyway, but I wanted to see if that at least works. But I don't know if this is any better than just using the headset with the Apple headset, so we'll see. It has a neat little echo effect on it. It came with this fancy stand, kind of like the really expensive microphones, but this was like 35 bucks, which probably wasn't worth it, but I accidentally bought it. But sometimes these things indicate like what I want to get into, like it's a gesture of getting a mic, so maybe I want to sing into a microphone or something, and this is a small way to make a movement towards that, even if it's not the very best quality. And I got the screen protector that has, so you can't see unless you're looking right at it. I probably won't put it on right away because on second thought it kind of looks funny if you have one of those. It's like, why do you need that? But I think when it comes to summertime, when I'm out and about, if I'm on transit and things and I want to edit videos or something, then it's nice to have a private screen, I think. And I got an order of some of my vitamins today for the apocalypse, the crisis. And by collaborating with Peter Smith, I know what to take when. So he said take Sam E only on the very depressed and suicidal days. So this will do for that. And I already had Alpha G PC. I've been saying GCP, but it's GPC, CDP choline, and brain gastrodin. But I had uridine, but I need more of this, and I'm going to get it from No Tropics Depot. And I got clove oil, and he said save this for when I'm in a crisis. So the Alpha G PC, CDP choline, brain gastrodin are for after the crisis, as well as the clove oil. And uridine is also for the most suicidal days, as well as inositol. This is powder. And I accidentally ordered 2 of these. I didn't mean to. So that was a wasted $10. But that's what happens when I'm running around doing a million things at once. These kind of boo-boos get made. So I have a lot of this stuff. And that's okay. So I'm collecting it in a box, and I'm going to keep them separate for after the crisis. And when I get the rest of what I need to order soon, after talking to Peter Smith, I am going to put labels on everything and organize it really well, because I can't be fiddling around when I'm in the middle of a crisis. I have to know what to do, and it's easiest to put that information right on the bottles. So I still have a lot of different steps to take in order to prepare. I'm going to order another round of stuff from VitaCost that I learned that I need to grab because of talking to Peter Smith, as well as a few things from No Tropics Depot. And I got more magnolia bark. There's only 60 and this was 20 bucks American, so that's kind of a pricey one, but I'm gonna have to get another one. And I got a cheaper turmeric. He told me to get this high potency, really bioavailable one, and it's like $25. This was like 10. So I am going to order the more expensive one because I'm going to go all out for this crisis. I'm going to do it up 100%. And if doing this all 100% doesn't do anything, then I can't do any more than 100%, so I will know that it's not really something that's worthwhile to do. So I don't mind spending the hundreds to thousands of dollars on these supplements to see what happens, because last time was really bad. So it's partly a reaction to how bad last time was. It really was horrific. So yeah, like I said, going all out on the supplements for this crisis, as well as darkness therapy. I'm going to start doing the relaxation audio. I'm really going to be extra prepared. It's like being extra prepared this time will make it so I don't have to be as prepared the next times. And so once I get all the supplements in hand, then I'll organize them, and then I'm going to make myself a couple of videos on all the steps I need to take and when, because that way I can make it into an audio as well, and I can listen to it as opposed to having to read through documents. I'll also have them in documents. I'll also have it in paper files. I'll also have it written on the bottles. I'll also have video. I'll also have audio. So I'll have every layer possible that I might need to reach for and able to understand what to do. Plus, by doing all those different layers, I start to remember and learn it, so there's less possibility that I'll even need to refer to it. So it's a good way to prepare plus study at the same time. And also creating sanctuary or going somewhere peaceful. So yeah, I'm going to have everything in order for that. I'm going to order my vitamins tonight or tomorrow, and then wait for them to come, and then plan. And I'm going to read through all the information that I have. I have a whole pile of paper that I printed out with the different points and things to remember. And the thing is with it is, once you start to realize and understand how it works, you remember it easier, or I will remember it easier. So that's where I'm at with that. And tomorrow I'm going to a family constellation workshop. I heard about it when I was in California, and since sometimes energy comes up around my family in the past when I'm in crisis, it might be cool to explore that, to see if there's something that I can do to resolve some of those energies in myself, instead of bringing up such old garbage that just destroys the relationships that are fine most of the time. So I'm going to go to that, even though it's kind of far away. And yeah, I have a lot of different things planned coming up, but I want to get organized with the stuff that I'm doing here at home in my office, because it's raining pretty much for the next week, except for Monday. So I'm going to go play tennis and get outside, but I'm trying to get organized with this time because it's raining, and then that way when it starts to be nice out, I can get outside every chance I can get. So I don't want to spend that much more time indoors once it starts getting nice. So I'm doing all this indoor stuff, like reading this and reading that and organizing this and organizing that. Today I saved a bunch of my videos from iCloud onto an external drive and getting organized with that. It really is not just preparing for crisis, but preparing to live outside, and then at some point preparing to learn camping or something maybe, and do some camping in the summer. So this time is interesting, and this spire thing could be a cool part of learning what works for me and what doesn't. So I'm going to look into that. Oh, and today I finally did something that I wanted to do for a while. I created a little bit of a song to go with a video that I made of a bunch of beautiful stuff I took video of in California. It's not long enough to cover the whole video, but I'll just put it on repeat or something, so there's at least some background sound. But it was kind of fun to do, and that's why I set up that little music station, is so I can do that when I feel like. And today it just sort of happened. I've been keeping a good track of what I need to do, but not making myself do anything in particular, just doing what happens. And it's been quite successful lately. I even bought pencil crayons when I was out a couple days ago. I bought some sparkly, shimmery ones. And then when I was at Dollarama, I bought some regular pencil crayons, and I have some of those adult coloring books, and I was just coloring a little bit. I'll show you what I did so far. I once sat with an enlightened master, and I remember certain things that he said. And one of the things he said at one time on an audio or something was, I insist that you do meaningless things. And I don't remember what the context was, but it's interesting how some of these little sound bites stick in my head. He also said, you become the quantum. He also said, I know it feels kind of schizophrenic, but it will have to do for now. And don't push, let it come to you. And don't move, everything happens around you. And those are just some that stuck in my head for some reason. I don't know why. But I've been putting stuff on my wall. If you saw my wall, there's stuff all over it to remind me of what I'm creating. But part of what I'm trying to do this time around before the crisis is not create too much. I wrote a thing on my wall that the idea to output ratio could be important. So the thing with this bipolar thing is creativity comes in, creative energy, and one will have a million ideas, but one can't carry them out. And then there's more and more ideas, and so the ratio of ideas to action becomes really, I don't know, small or large, whatever, but too many ideas, not enough action on those ideas because there's too many ideas and the ideas are predominating. So I don't want to keep creating the ideas of what I tend to keep coming up with each time the crisis happens, and then the ideas come back. But I want to stay grounded in just sort of sometimes doing meaningless things, doing more things in the body and not getting so infatuated. I thought it was infatuated this whole time. I even spelt it that way with a C, infatuated. But infatuated with ideas. And wow, I made like a whole year and a half of videos that were like ideas. So now I'm going to spend time just coloring away, and just sometimes though, not all the time, and monitoring things with this Spire, and keep going with the vitamins because that's what I'm doing for now. If it doesn't work, I'm going to try a totally different strategy after this, and I will definitely cut back on the vitamins. And I've been blogging a little bit about lithium orotate, which reminds me, it's time to take lithium orotate. This Cal brand one, the capsules taste funny for sure. They taste kind of like crayons or something. And next I'll be taking Advanced Research brand in caps because I made the caps out of the crushed powder because I didn't want to waste it. So I'll just take 2 of these a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, because this is about 10 milligrams each. And I think I already said how I ordered this thing called a Sleep Master because it's supposed to block out 100% of the light. And if I go to a different place to have sanctuary when this crisis hits, I don't know if I can blockade the window. They might think I'm crazy. They might be on to me or something. So we'll see how it works. It's supposed to also block out noise, which could be helpful in some situations. And also it was interesting, I was out and about, and I saw an acquaintance who I didn't know they were into the whole spiritual dimension part of mental health crisis, and they started talking to me about it, and I started sharing stuff, and it kind of blew me away because I didn't know that person was into that perspective, because oftentimes when there's acquaintances that are through mental health, the system, it's like, oh, diagnosis, symptoms, bipolar, manic, psychotic, blah, blah, blah. And not people saying, oh, I think people with schizophrenia are accessing other dimensions. Like, hello, yes, they are. So that was cool. And then later that same day, somebody else started talking to me, and asking me what supplements I take, and I'm like, oh, I take this and this, and I take Bacopa, and that's like a weird one. Nobody would have heard of that, but this person's like, I take Bacopa too, and I take this and that, and they're taking some of the supplements that I take. So I learned that that person is into researching health and wellness and supplements to help with this stuff. So I'm not the only one doing that. Yay. But it was interesting how, like, those are the things I'm exploring, and then people that I've known for either a short time or quite a long time start coming up to me and talking to me about those very things. And what do? I participate in the transformation of insanity. And I'll share the song that I made. I hope you like it. Thing, I don't know if I talked about these things, but I have this piece of paper here that says that I didn't talk about it, but I might have. But the other day I was just doing whatever, and it really hit me all of a sudden that I'm my grandmother. She died when I was 5, and when I was 5 I didn't fully have a fully formed consciousness yet, but it hit me that her consciousness totally went into mine, if I had any at that time. And then I was thinking about my life versus hers. She was hyper-religious, and here I am diagnosed with a mental illness, and different interactions with people based on the fact that I could be my grandmother. And it's also interesting that that came to me a couple of days ago when I have signed up for this family constellation workshop, and I had already signed up for it. So seems like I'm getting intimations about this family constellation thing before taking the workshop. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Lots of cool stuff up and coming, and these 2 months are going to be great, and then I'll probably totally crash and burn, but I'm going to enjoy these 2 months for sure. I'm reading the Spire instructions. What I really like is works with your smartphone, integrates your phone's location and calendar to show when and where your tension occurred and what you were doing. I think that's really cool. That's what I need to know.